We all remember the Fortnite World Cup. It was more Googled than 9/11, and just like 9/11, it had millions of people watching. But instead of seeing people die, we watched Creo cry about losing the first game, and Tfue only getting 67th place. The World Cup was truly a magical time for anyone who got to watch it live, and it was the most unforgettable experience in gaming history. Epic Games spent a year and a half planning the event only to not realize that New York takes a large chunk of tournament earnings, on top of federal fees that Bugha had to pay, leaving him with only around $1.5 million according to Dexerto. Generally though, the Fortnite World Cup went about as well as possible, and there weren't many large issues which hindered the tournament. After seeing the massive success of the World Cup, Epic Games announced they were going to be doing another one in 2020, which obviously did not happen due to the coronavirus, which shut the world down. People thought that there was going to be a World Cup in 2021. When that didn't happen, people thought there was going to be a World Cup in 2022. When that didn't happen, people knew that Epic was likely not going to do another one. But why? The Fortnite World Cup earned a ton of money for Epic Games and brought an insane amount of hype to the game, so it just seems dumb to not do it again, right? Well, there are actually some notable reasons why they aren't doing it, so let me explain. The first reason why Epic Games is not doing a World Cup is because they're too busy with all of this collab stuff. Does anybody remember when Fortnite introduced those new modes into the game? Me neither, so let me remind you. Epic Games made LEGO Fortnite, Rocket Racing, and Fortnite Festival recently, which about 3 people played for a few days before getting bored and forgetting about them. Well, anyways, Epic Games is currently trying to expand Fortnite into a giant gaming hub similar to Roblox. They're trying to make Fortnite a game that anyone and everyone will enjoy regardless of what games they're into, and so far they've been sort of unsuccessful, but with this image being passed around, who knows, maybe it'll be cool in the future. Point is, Epic Games is caring less and less about the competitive side of the game and working harder to expand the game into a giant platform with the motto "Find it in Fortnite." Due to all of this and the giant Disney collab coming soon and the recent Apple lawsuit going on, it makes sense that they don't really have the time to set up another World Cup, and with them losing a ton of money from the Apple lawsuit, it would not be ideal to be paying millions of dollars to teenagers right now. Even if they did have the time, there's a ton of logistical planning which goes into something like a World Cup. They need to find a giant arena that they can afford to rent out, and then they'd have to convert the entire stadium from a place where people play sports to a place where Peterbot can crank 90s. Also, finding a place with good ping and enough seating for the tens of thousands of attendees would be rather difficult as well. The next big issue that could arise from another World Cup is the winner of the tournament. Whoever wins a Fortnite World Cup instantly becomes incredibly famous and becomes the face of Fortnite for years to come. For example, Bugha won the World Cup in 2019 and is still the face of Fortnite to this day, 5 years later. Since the outcome of the tournament is not predetermined, that means that any of the 100 players can win. While this is good for the players, it might not be for Epic Games. They got incredibly lucky when Bugha won the World Cup because despite only being 16 at the time, he was very mature and humble and has currently, to this day, been involved in 0 controversies. However, if another player won the World Cup who might be rather controversial, that would be a terrible, terrible look for Epic Games and Fortnite as a whole. For example, if some annoying teenager with a controversial past were to win the World Cup, they would become the new face of Fortnite for years to come, and the game would be looked down upon more than it already is. Or if they had a player who was maybe caught cheating in the past, or teaming, or anything of the sort, nobody would take Fortnite seriously. When I say Epic Games got lucky when Bugha won, they got insanely lucky. Most other players during that time would have not been a great look for Epic Games, and that is even more true to this day. The next big problem with another World Cup is one that is insanely obvious, and that is the cheating problem. Epic Games does what they can despite their shitty anti-cheat not working well, but alas, people's tournaments are constantly still being griefed by cheaters, and another World Cup could be even worse. There would be thousands of people hacking and cheating, everything from full-blown rage hacks to subtle cheaters only using ESPs and soft aims. Epic would have no way of detecting and banning all of these cheaters, and there would be a large group of people who cheat their way all the way through the qualifiers and make it to the grand finals. That would result in a large number of no-name people playing at a LAN in front of millions of people without cheats. While some of them might be decent players who get a few points, most of them would place horribly and die immediately whenever they come in contact with any real pro players. players. Someone coming out of nowhere just to qualify for the World Cup and immediately display their lack of skill in front of millions of people would be a terrible look for Epic Games, and I don't think that they would ever want to risk that, at least not now. You might be saying, well, if cheaters are going to be an issue, then why don't people cheat in FNCS tournaments? Well, they do. In every single tournament, no matter how small, there are tons of cheaters running rampant. If there was another World Cup, however, there would be far more cheaters. So many, in fact, that Epic Games just would not be able to keep up. Another issue of a Fortnite World Cup is formatting. How would the tournament be formatted? During the 2019 World Cup, there was a solos and a duos tournament. Would they stick with solos and duos, or would they switch it up? Solos is by far the best in terms of entertainment value while watching, but pro players do not like solos. The entire tournament would be significantly more stressful for anyone involved with the solo tournament, and there's also more room for issues. Fortnite is a game that heavily relies on RNG, and the negative effects could be detrimental to anyone playing in the tournament. In a duos tournament, lots of drop spots are uncontested, making the early game much more about looting and farming, but in solos, pretty much every corner of the map is going to be contested. If you've ever played Fortnite before, you know that no matter how good you are, you will sometimes die off spawn. This would be dreadful to watch during a Fortnite World Cup event, and it happened a lot back in the first World Cup. The World Cup in 2019, however, took place on the OG Chapter 1 map, which had far more loot and places to drop, but on a map like the Chapter 5 map, the solos tournament would be significantly based on luck and not skill, and that would be even further proven by how the game currently works. Fortnite right now heavily relies on the concept of mythic items, which makes tournaments far less fair and competitive. Obviously, a Fortnite World Cup would not take place during Chapter 5 Season 2, but for the sake of the argument, assume that it did. You would have 5 to 10 people landing at Grim Gate every single game just trying to get that stupid dash medallion, and only 1 to 3 people at most would survive past the initial drop. This also applies to the game as a whole, not just solos. The game right now is heavily reliant on overpowered weapons and mythic items, which would throw the entire tournament off. The game is heavily based on RNG and luck now more than it ever has been before, and that would make the tournament end horribly. But back to the formatting, would they do what they did last time and have solos and duos? I know for a fact that players do not want to play solos, but Epic Games pretty much has to get all the viewership, and the current direction of the game is removing the need for skill in favor of luck and RNG. Here are my ideas for how a successful Fortnite World Cup event would look in terms of the game and the planning. Number 1. All mythic items and medallions would not be part of the game. All players will have a material cap of 700 instead of 500, and the game would have a 40% farming rate increase just like in the old arena mode. All common and uncommon weapons would be removed from the loot pool, leaving players with blue or better guns for the sake of fairness. Snipers would be completely eliminated from the game during the tournament, which, as much as I love snipers, they're not competitive at all. The only movement items in the game would be the OG grappler and a trap slot launchpad. The qualifiers would also require players to have an account level higher than 1,500 to hopefully prevent most of the cheating players from being able to play the qualifiers. The World Cup would likely take place at the AT&T Stadium in Dallas, Texas. The tournament would also run on a dedicated server to avoid congestion and ping issues on the normal Amazon servers, and the game would also hopefully run with a 60 tick rate or above. And I think that's it. Another Fortnite World Cup would be an incredibly difficult task to pull off, but it would be insanely good for the game and the players if it was planned well. However, I don't think that Epic Games cares about a World Cup right now, and we likely won't ever see a Fortnite World Cup in the future.
Another epic official solo tourney would blow whoever that person is up. But like, if you honestly want the truth, bro, I feel like they're not scared, but like, dude, they just know how risky it is sometimes for like certain people to blow up in Fortnite and like the faces of their game. Like, and I know that's a fact too.